Thank you, Brian Tari. What a beautiful few renditions of Amazing Grace in that. I'm Reverend Michelle Hubbard, and on behalf of Frank, Diane, and Ryan Leone, and Karina Franco, Ryan's fiance, and even Ryan's sons, Nico and Waylon, we welcome you here, and we thank you for making time for us. Whether you're here virtually, whether you're here in person, whether you may be stuck in traffic right now, we include you in this time together. We're grateful that you're here. I'd like to begin by creating a sacred container for all of us to be a voice, a space, and a heart in. I'd like to begin with prayer. So I want to invite you to get comfortable where you are. If it's safe, if you're driving, please don't close your eyes, but otherwise, if it feels comfortable, close or soften your eyes. Let your breathing be slow and easy. And now that you're open for the presence of holiness, I'd like to recite for you an Aramaic version of the Lord's Prayer. Father, Mother, birther and breath of all, create a space inside us and fill it with your presence. Let oneness now prevail. Your one desire then moves through all forms as energy fills all forms. Give us this day our physical and spiritual nourishment. Untangle the knots of error that bind us as we release others. Don't let appearances make us forgetful of the source, but free us to act appropriately. For age to age from you flow the glorious harmonies of life. May these statements be fertile ground from which our future grows. Amen and amen. If you're joining us virtually, I'd like to let you know that we are in the beautiful sanctuary of Unity of Santa Barbara. Unity is a global, inclusive spiritual movement that offers practical inspiration to help people of all faiths apply positive spiritual principles in their daily lives. And it doesn't matter what your path is, we honor all the paths to God. And because each person comes to Unity at a different place on their journey, we invite you to use whatever language resonates with you, whether you like to say God, the universe, spirit, divine truth, love. My personal favorite is out of the blue, or some other phrase. We believe that this divine energy is all the same, a benevolent expression of goodness, order, abundance, and love in the world. Unity believes that God is everywhere and always present in every circumstance, and that this divine energy underlines and animates all of existence. And so what I'd like to do is have us all unite together, everyone here in person and everyone who is also watching online, as there will be coming up on the screen a statement of oneness that is a spiritual truth that Unity is revolved around. I would like to ask for everyone to say this all together. There is only one presence and one power, active in the universe and in my life, God, the good, omnipotent. And today we celebrate that presence as it revealed itself in the love and the impact of Ryan Leone. Ryan was a teacher of the diversity of life. He illustrated complications and brilliance, love and pain, fun and honesty. And in this, he invited us to look at the many facets of our own selves. Ryan was a safe space to show up exactly as you were, even if you were having feelings, even if you were thinking judgments, even if you were making mistakes, even if you were being sacred. Ryan welcomed you as if you were a guest in his house. And I'd like to share with you a poem by the mystic poet Rumi called The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. And what an amazing guide to life Ryan was. Ryan Harrison Leone was born in Framingham, Massachusetts on August 3rd, 1985, the only child of Diane and Frank Leone. He spent his first 4 years in neighboring Sudbury. Ryan moved with his family to Santa Barbara in 1989. He attended Monte Vista Elementary School, Marymount Middle School, and that's now Riverbridge School, and Santa Barbara High School. Ryan had an idyllic childhood. He loved books of all types and was a movie devotee from the age of 3. And even at 3, he could recite long passages from his then favorite movie, Ghostbusters. He began writing as a hobby, and at the age of 9, won first prize in a youth writing contest sponsored by Barnes & Noble. Ryan loved to travel, and he traveled extensively throughout the United States and beyond during his youth. At the age of 15, he even traveled to Taipei and Beijing. He was a devoted animal lover, especially dogs. He had 2 labs, Bogey, aka Humphrey Bogart Leone, and Brava, and currently a 9-month-old German Shepherd named Cubby. The last 22 years of Ryan's life were compromised by drug addiction. Although he fought his addiction gamely, long periods of sobriety were intertwined with periods of use. Between the ages of 15 and 34, Ryan spent a cumulative 8 years incarcerated, all for nonviolent drug-related violations. During one such prison term, Ryan wrote a novel entitled Wasting Talent. Self-published, the book has sold approximately 400,000 copies and provided Ryan with considerable international renown. In recent years, Ryan turned his experiences as a user and inmate into a large YouTube and Patreon presence, attracting tens of thousands of subscribers. Many subscribers have credited Ryan with helping them manage their own addictions, which was Ryan's primary objective. In recent years, Ryan established several nonprofits dedicated to providing more widespread availability of Narcan, which is used to treat opioid abuse, and to address prison reform issues. At the time of his passing, Ryan had numerous projects near or at completion. His second novel, Anti-Heroes, is complete and in the editing phase. A documentary of Ryan's life, Idiot Savant, The Tortured Life of Ryan Leone, is ready for release. And his screenplay, Florida, co-written by actor Nick Stahl, is in negotiation for sale. Those who knew Ryan valued his incredible creativity, his storytelling ability, his commitment to progressive politics, his sense of humor, his loyalty, his sensitivity to those less fortunate, and his inherent kindness. He was devoted to his domestic partner, Karina Franco, and as father of their 2 lovely children, Nico Gadsby Leone and Waylon Sparrow Leone. It seems almost incomprehensible that so much life and living is being celebrated at a moment of death. But love is an energetic presence that never dies. The body of creativity and the love Ryan felt for his family and friends will not end, but rather will continue forward. In the book, The Prophet, Khalil Gibran speaks of the opposites that are asking to be included on death. You would know the secret of life, but how shall you find it unless you seek it in the heart of life? And the owl, whose night-bound eyes are blind unto the day, cannot unveil the mystery of light. If you would indeed behold the spirit of death, open your heart wide unto the body of life. For life and death are one, even as the river and sea are one. In the depth of your hopes and desires lies your silent knowledge of the beyond. And like seeds dreaming beneath the snow, your heart dreams of spring. Trust those dreams, for in them is hidden the gate to eternity. Your fear of death is but the trembling of the shepherd when he stands before the king whose hand is to be laid upon him in honor. Is the shepherd not joyful beneath his trembling? that he shall wear the mark of the king, and yet is he not more mindful of his trembling? For what is it to die but to stand naked in the wind and to melt into the sun? And what is it to cease breathing but to free the breath from its restless tides, that it may rise and expand and seek God unencumbered? Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing, and when you have reached the mountaintop, then shall you begin to climb. And when the earth shall claim your limbs, then shall you truly dance. We're going to share one of Ryan's favorite songs now, My Sweet Lord by George Harrison.
My Lord, I really want to see you, really want to be with you, really want to see you, Lord, but it takes so long, my Lord, my sweet Lord, my Lord, my Lord. I really want to know you, really want to go with you, really want to show you, Lord, that it won't take long. My sweet Lord, my sweet Lord, I really want to see you, really want to see you, really want to see you, Lord, really want to see you, Lord, but it takes so long, my Lord, my sweet Lord, my Lord, my Lord. I really want to know you, I really want to go with you, really want to show you love, but it won't take long, my Lord. My sweet Lord, my Lord. Sweet Lord, now I really want to see you, really want to be with you, really want to see you, Lord, but it takes so long, my Lord, my Lord, my Lord. My sweet Lord,
And now I'd like to introduce to you some speakers who will share their relationship with Ryan. First is Michael Mushland from New York, New York. Michael is a family friend who has been close friends with the family since he and Ryan's father met when they were college classmates. He is a nationally known author, speaker, and activist for criminal justice and prison reform. He was very close to Ryan.
"60 years ago, on a hot September day in an unair-conditioned dormitory room on the campus of Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee, it was my very first day in college, I met Frank LEONE, Ryan's dad. We were an unlikely pair. I was an 18-year-old Jewish kid, if you can believe it, from Meridian, Mississippi. He was an 18-year-old Catholic kid from West Hempstead, Long Island. But we quickly became friends and have remained so to this day. I'm proud to call Frank my most dearest friend. Our lives are enmeshed. It hasn't mattered that we haven't lived in the same place since 1966, probably before most of the people in this room were born. 42 years ago, I attended Frank's wedding and met Diane, Frank's wonderful wife. For the last 4 years, Diane has been a cherished friend. Frank and I both became dads at the same time. Ryan was born in the summer of 1985, and so was my son, Rory. Ryan attended Rory's bar mitzvah and afterwards romped with him in New York's iconic Plaza Hotel at the foot of Central Park. Afterwards, the next summer, Rory visited Ryan and stayed with the LEONE family in Santa Barbara, the first time we let him out of the house. Over the years, Frank and I have shared the roller coaster ride of parenting. Frank was a great help to me when one of my sons passed through a dark, frightening period. I did my best to help Frank as he confronted Ryan's struggles. My involvement increased when Ryan was thrown needlessly into America's ugly, heartless, punitive prison system. Later, when Ryan was cast into solitary confinement, the greatest shame of a shameful system, there to be tortured by extreme isolation, I felt anger. I felt helpless. Yes, Ryan was entangled and snarled in the grip of addiction. Yes, he spent years in the belly of the beast. But neither imprisonment nor substance abuse overcame him. He lived, he thrived, he exposed, as only a brilliant observer can, the madness of a system that treats addiction as a crime. When Ryan died much too soon, we lost a giant. Ryan LEONE was an artist who put in words the truths that we know but cannot speak. He used his massive talent to speak to people lost in the throes of deadly cravings. He spoke to the imprisoned. He spoke to people who feel alone and unloved. He spoke to them with humor, great humor, with compassion, great compassion, with truth. God knows he never shied away from the truth. With authenticity, mixed in with a little razzle-dazzle, and with an astonishing storytelling ability. Over a half century ago, a similar talent drew me to Frank, whose stories left me mesmerized, left me crying, left me wanting more. Ryan took that bequest from Frank and he took it to a higher level. With it, he connected with people who believe that no one cares, who think that no one understands, who are convinced beyond argument that no one shares their fears, their joys, their terrors. Ryan gave these people their dignity back. His work continues to give them hope. Ryan died, but his influence is not. Indeed, Ryan's reach, I am convinced, will grow in the years ahead. I am also convinced that long after we are all gone, Ryan's voice will be heard. His love for Karina and for Nico and Wylan also is too mighty for death to destroy. In significant measure, we have Frank and Diane Leone to thank for the gift that Ryan was and is to all of us. They are loving, caring, devoted parents. They nurtured all the good in Ryan and gave it space to grow. They did all they could and much, much, much more to support him in his struggle with demons. They stood by him and they loved him with every ounce of possible energy and selflessness, no matter what. Is there such a thing as unconditional love? I wonder sometimes. I ask myself, in this cold, selfish world, is there unconditional love? The answer is in this room. The answer is there. The answer is Frank and Diane Leone. At this time of unimaginable grief, my most earnest wish for Frank and Diane is that they allow themselves, and this is difficult, that they allow themselves to take pride in the magnificent accomplishments of Ryan and take pride in what they did for Ryan. I know that on behalf of all of us who celebrate the life of Ryan Leone, from the bottom of our hearts, we say to you, thank you.
And now I'd like to introduce Ryan Ramnareis from Baraboo, Wisconsin. Ryan was a fellow inmate of Ryan Leone's in Oxford, Wisconsin. He served for 14 years and was a massive influence on Ryan's then path to sobriety. Ryan?
So I first met Ryan at FCI Oxford. I had been there at that point, I think 10 years, and we're working out, and Ryan comes up and he wants to work out with us. And he says, Ryan, can you take me under your wing, kind of? Can you get me in shape? Can you give me a different version of myself? Can you help me out? And I said, no, I'm sorry, kid. Can't do it. And so he was persistent, though. If Ryan was anything, he was tenacious, right? So he would come back maybe a couple times a day. I would cross his path, like, what about now? Let's talk about it. Will you consider it? And in time, I gave him a workout. I said, go and do this. If you do it for 90 days, I'll consider it. That's not a yes. I'll consider it. And he actually did it for 90 days. He did this little workout I gave him. And I said, okay, true to my word, I'll talk to the guys and we'll let you in. And so I think his first exposure to working out and being mentored by the people that were in this particular group was his first real steps to taking personal accountability in his life for the choices that had brought him there versus being a victim or seeing himself as a victim of the system. He knew that there were shortcomings in the system for sure, but instead of focusing on those, he focused on self and what he could do for himself and make himself better. It was during this time when he started working out that he felt better about himself. He was stronger. He had more self-confidence. He had replaced the addiction side of things that he had suffered with something positive. And it was maybe the first time in his life that he had actually looked to do that. Fortunately, by having that exposure, he was able to achieve sustained sobriety for a length of time, even after his release. I think he released a couple years before I did. And during the time that we were working on getting to know one another, and I'm getting him to go to meetings and we're talking and we're mentoring him, it really cemented, I think, our relationship. So much so that I've been released now for 7 years. And that was 2 years before I was ever released that he left. So for many, many years now, he and I have maintained this relationship, you know, and in life's peaks and valleys, he would get a hold of me when he was in a valley and we would talk. And I would be supportive emotionally and try to mentor him the way that I did when I was in there. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But when he had reached another peak, he would get a hold of me and we would celebrate that victory, that latest new victory, and it was great. And so at a distance, I'm in Wisconsin, he's in California, and we never actually in all this time were able to catch up face to face until last year. Last year he came and he was working on a project, and he did come to Baraboo, Wisconsin, little Baraboo, Wisconsin, and come and spend time with me. I can't say enough about him. The encyclopedic knowledge he seemed to have and possess of the people that he worked with or was going to work with. You could cite chapter and verse of their body of work. And I know that about him. He loved to create. And he also reveled in being able to celebrate the things that his friends or family or associates were creating. That's who he was. He was a creative soul. I loved him. He'll always be my brother. And I'm going to miss him. The world is actually a dimmer place now that Ryan's gone. But I also know that the hereafter is a brighter place because it's gained a star. Thank you.
And now I'd like to introduce to you Jim Ulls from Los Angeles, California. Jim is a decorated screenwriter and author whose many works include Fight Club, which was later made into a highly successful film. Jim was an influential professional colleague of Ryan's and one of Ryan's primary mentors.
Just a clarification, my screenplay adaptation of Chuck Palahniuk's novel Fight Club did go on and get made into a movie. This is what she's referring to. I met Ryan Leone online. I was on Facebook. He wasn't a friend, a complete stranger, but Facebook has something where you're reading the messages from people you friended on Facebook, and over to the side, you see that there's messages from complete strangers over there. It shows the name and the first sentence of that message, maybe each one. And I always saw them. They were always there, strangers. Sometimes it was praise. This is great. I'm a fan of whatever. But if you click on a message to read it all, you've opened up a certain level of permissions, not really friended them, but whatever. So it didn't just randomly click like because somebody said something great in their first sentence, right? And one such message was from Ryan Leone. So his first sentence was praising me. However, unlike all the others, this was written by somebody who clearly had literary presence, knowledge, everything that could back up exactly why he liked what he liked in that thing that I saw under that stranger's name. So being receptive then, I clicked on it and read the whole message. The rest of it was just simply, would you write a blurb for my novel? Well, I knew things instantly then. It was not published because a blurb would be used in publishing it. And that I would be reading then a manuscript, even on PDF, of a novel, which is lines right across the page, double spaced down every page, right? And that I'd be writing a blurb. What I was used to doing, I would get screenplays. Other screenwriter friends of mine who are not screenwriters, maybe somebody I've only met somewhere, but this screenplay won this or that contest, and yeah, send it along. It's always for the same reason. I will then respond in some way that carries, a full reaction. If it doesn't have suggestions on changes, it's still not just, it's great, no notes. It's like, let's hear what your impressions are. And that's not really it. I'm a slow reader. The screenplay is 120 pages. It's certainly not all filled up because there's different margins. And I read them more slowly because then I reread parts, and I might read it all again because I'm going to be formulating this response. And while I formulate it, maybe start, I'm just keeping a file going and typing what's coming to me. It might be the equivalent of 3 pages in an email of all that, right? But I was going to be reading the manuscript of a novel that would have pages like that, and it would certainly be more than 120 of them, right? And then I would be forming all of those thoughts and summarizing that into 2 sentences. 2 good sentences, by the way, a blurb. George Bernard Shaw once apologized near the end of an extremely long letter. I'm sorry I didn't write a shorter letter. I didn't have time. It's a universal truth. Putting all of that into 2 sentences? Okay. I sent him my email address. I would just let him know that there were certain things that I'd be reading before that point. And he sent it. And I did get to it. And I started reading it. And however long it took me, going back, whatever, one thing's for certain. When I started reading it, I didn't stop until I finished it. That's a fact. In fact, even before I finished it, it was manifestly obvious to me that this was a major literary accomplishment. That in fact, my reading nonfiction books and knowing Chuck Palahniuk's novels and everything, I don't know what's going on really in literature right now. So I just kind of studied it up, and yeah, well, the movement called transgressive fiction that Chuck Palahniuk is in, well, this is a star example of that period. I knew it. So somehow I eventually was able to distill all my thoughts into a 2-sentence blurb, which actually wound up being one. I like those 2 sentences. And I emailed Ryan back, not only with the blurb, of course, but with a lot of other stuff, basically opening up a friendship. And I got an email back like that. What happened over the 6 years after that is that a friendship developed that got more and more affectionate until it was simply 2 people who loved each other, who signed their emails, Love Jim, Love Ryan, for the past 2 years of it. All of it, all of that, from stranger all the way through. Without meeting in person, right? And incidentally, another friendship, because it developed just with me and Karina. When Ryan was in prison, there were emails. No, it wasn't just information or accounts of what happened or how to do something. It was actual commiseration of our emotions about what's happening to him. All without meeting in person. Okay, there is one exception of 3-hour nights during the night, okay, in Santa Monica, an outdoor restaurant. Well, it simply confirmed what I knew by then, maybe a year into this, to be a fact anyway. I'd seen pictures that, yeah, they were the most beautiful couple I'd ever seen. And secondly, they were both, each the individuals, I full well knew them already and was friends with them for being. Okay, there was that. But everything else, without being in person. It's amazing to me. If it was anybody else, really, God, I'd be surprised, except it's Ryan Leone, and I'm not surprised. In fact, I met 2 people through him, the person who spoke before me, Ryan Ramnarez, and somebody who's coming up, Seth Ferrante. right, from Ryan, of course online, and some communication, and I believe maybe photographs. But until this day, we've never met in person. And that's not a surprise because it's Ryan Leone. So what did I learn about Ryan Leone over this friendship? Well, at some point, as it got going, we began to work on a project. He wanted me to write just the narration for the documentary he's putting together, actually about himself, using all the videos and whatever he had of himself all the way through his life, home videos and everything. And that got up to a certain point, and then all knowing there is a date coming up where he will begin to go into prison and serve a sentence. And this certain amount of things that he needed, not finished by me, but himself, basically cutting together what's going to be used of that all the way through, because of at least my rough version of a narration had to be done. Then I could just refine it if I wanted to, then it would be recorded. But before he stepped in prison, the deadline was that would all be cut together, right? Well, I mean, he started to add the extra things that he was going to do before that, and things got really weird. And I just simply talked to him like I always did, understanding, trying to understand. Eventually hearing some preposterous things that I knew full well weren't true, but I kept a good positive relationship with him all that time. And then he was incarcerated. And there was the contact between Karina and I telling me about all that. And then after that, there was like a new iteration of the same documentary idea. Still use all these videos from Ryan's life and wherever they were. And the criteria for picking a clip was this. We both knew it. Let's say it's about when Ryan was 21. Doesn't look very good. He's an addict in the video, and we talking about it. He says, "Yeah, it really shows me in a dark light, doesn't it?" Yeah, and he said, "Good, we'll use that one." The other kind of thing we would decide is we'd see basically the opposite. He'd be much younger, maybe with friends, whatever, and adults, but everybody was happy. It was just all just as sweet as it could possibly be, which he would comment on and simply say, "Yeah, it is that, isn't it sweet?" And yeah, but they said, "Good, it'll be such a stark contrast to what's coming. We'll use that one." And that's how the clips were decided. Well, Ryan, eventually, not that long ago, whatever time it was, he started his own YouTube channel, and he basically recorded the audio of him telling something about his life, with that same thumbnail the whole time, but you heard the audio. What these audio things were basically the accounts of all the mistakes that he'd made in his entire life without any of the facts being removed and nothing being burnished about it, except his own self-deprecating charm when he said it, but nothing was left out. And every mistake was his. I've never heard him blame anyone or anything else. All his mistakes, all freely shared with complete strangers. That was what I learned about Ryan Leone. Another thing is that Ryan Leone never considered himself better than anyone. Yeah, sure, he looked up and he thought some people were on maybe a higher level than him, but there was nobody on a lower level than him, period. Could be all these complete strangers. Maybe some of them are convicts or ex-convicts. Doesn't matter. Nobody was he better than ever. That was something about Ryan Leone. So he freely shared all the mistakes that were 100% his responsibility with all his people, that many of which are strangers, none of whom he was better than. While he was in prison, this is a very interesting thing about him as well. Karina gave me the instructions of how I could send him something. You send it through the system directly to the prisoner, like to Ryan Leone, right? With this one way of doing it and everything. She said, "Yeah, do that. And here's the name of the prisoner you're going to send it to." What? because it will assuredly get to that prisoner. So why am I? And it was, Karina said something about the ones that torment him as being a newbie, whatever. It won't get to him. But this guy who's not a newbie, he's been there, always bothering him. He'll get it. He'll give it to Ryan. Well, Ryan's only been there X amount of time. I know for a fact he stepped in there and everybody was a complete stranger to him. And all those strangers were inveterate convicts by virtue of the fact they were already there. And one of them, he had formed a bond of that much trust with. Again, amazing. Ryan Leone, not a surprise at all. In fact, it kept happening. Then he would be somewhere else. And there'd be this other prisoner you send stuff to. So was it amazing, surprising even, that it kept happening? Still not surprising. Not with Ryan Leone, it wasn't. And what did happen, I imagine, my mind maybe, in the process of them becoming close, that this prisoner thought, maybe I'll take a pen, put it to paper, and I'll create something, and maybe wrote just 2 sentences that might have been autobiographical, might have been the beginning of something he's making up. And then just simply show it to his buddy Ryan, who would then read it and talk to him as an absolute equal, even as an absolute equal writer to this person. Simply saying it might be good that's a really good start. It might be good if the way you go is this, or whatever. Did that happen? I imagine it, because that's exactly what would have happened if that prisoner had written a couple sentences and shown him. That's Ryan Leone. So all of these aspects of one individual who basically, I think the first time I saw a photograph of him, I thought, on the side, he's a male model. I see a photograph of him and Karina. Okay, they're both models, whatever else they do. With all of his extraordinary literary talent, I don't have to be the one who says it and demands anyone believes it. I mean, I saw interviews with people who are, in fact, literary heavyweights, one after the other, saying this about Ryan and his first novel, even some saying, I wish my first novel was that good. I saw the interviews. So that is Ryan Leone. As I grew to know him and grew to love him online, still and forever, one of the closest peoples that in my entire life. So that's my account. That's my experience of Ryan. And thank you.
What a journey. Now we're going to hear from Caitlin Druria, whose maiden name is Corral. Caitlin was a classmate of Ryan's at the Marymount School in Santa Barbara. Caitlin, as well as many others from their close-knit class, remain friends with Ryan up to the present.
Hello, everyone. My name is Caitlin, and I am one of Ryan's oldest friends, and I am honored to be here today. I want to start by giving my condolences to Ryan's family, Diane, Frank, Karina, and the boys. It goes without saying, Ryan was a special, wonderful person. I have known Ryan's family for most of my life. I met Ryan in the 6th grade, and we instantly became close. I was the lifer at Marymount since preschool, and he was the cool new kid who knew how to skateboard. Ryan started hanging out with me and my best friend, Brenna, and the 3 of us were pretty much inseparable the way preteens are. Three-way phone calls after school were part of our nightly routine. We would stay up, watching MTV's TRL, waiting for the #1 song of the day. If we weren't at his house hanging outside on LeSwen, we were together at a friend's house or walking around downtown together. We learned a lot from Ryan, mostly about skateboarding. I'm pretty sure he invented finger skateboarding. And in case you didn't know, Ryan had the softest, sweatiest hands, which gave him a real advantage. Before he was he was a seriously pro finger skateboarder, and he started out using sharpened down pencils before tech decks were a thing. On our camping trip to El Cap, We finally begged him enough to teach us how to skateboard. He never complained, even though I'm sure it was annoying trying to teach a bunch of girls how to skateboard. But again, for him, it was just about making us happy, and he was the real definition of a best friend. As I have reflected on our friendship and his life these past few weeks, a few memories came to mind. I remember we went on a class trip to Monterey, and we had a blast. I have about 1,000 pictures to prove it, and this is back when disposable cameras were a thing, so you can only imagine how many of those needed to be developed. The highlight of the trip was not the aquarium, but the crazy, not to mention really unnecessary, bright yellow raincoat Ryan decided to wear. Another story that stands out is when Jonathan and Ryan took a bus to Brenna's house on the Mesa, and they didn't ask for permission. With our luck, the bus got into an accident, and Brenna's mom had to go pick them up. If you can't tell by now, we were really close. In fact, we even made an agreement that whoever had a baby girl first would name it Elena because it had a little bit of each of our names in it. We stayed close throughout high school, and after high school, I went on to help Diane work at Paper Star. Ryan would come visit us, and he would help refill the card wall or empty the trash can so we had more time to walk to get a blenders. He did the little things, and that really made us happy. He was so genuine, and that's what I always loved about him. As the years passed, we didn't talk every day, and there were some years where we barely spoke at all. But you know there is something special in a person and a friendship when you can go for long periods of time without talking, and when you finally do, you pick up right where you left off. Never felt like we changed, or if we did, we changed together. We were talking in May about going to see the Kendrick Lamar concert with our partners, and we had no doubt it was going to be a great time. To go from childhood friendship to adulthood is something really special. I feel fortunate to be part of his life and for him to be part of mine. I am so proud of him for what he did with his time here. He found the person he loved, he became a father, and he made an impact on so many people's lives. Ryan changed people's lives for the better, and as we sit here today, we know that his influence will continue on. We will grieve, and we will laugh, and we will carry forward with what we learned from him. His spirit lives on in us, and that means that he will truly never leave us. Thank you.
Now I'd like to introduce you to Seth Ferranti from St. Louis, Missouri. While serving a 25-year sentence for nonviolent drug offenses, Seth started a successful writing career and earned a master's degree from California State University. He's the director of numerous documentaries, including the forthcoming Idiot Savant, The Savage Life of Ryan LEONE.
Yeah, what's up? First off, I just want to give my deepest sympathies and condolences to the family and to Karina and the kids. You know, I mean, I've been a part of Ryan's life since I got out of prison in 2015, and I've been, you know, up and down on the roller coaster with him. You know, as he succeeded and you know, as he, you know, failed and I mean, it's been a struggle. I know it's been a struggle for him. I know it's been a struggle for his family. I know it's been a struggle for Karina, you know, and the boys. But, you know, even guys like me and Ryan and other guys, you know, it's been a struggle for us too. Because I mean, here's this kid, this person, you know, I mean, beautiful soul. I mean, super loving, super creative. I mean, he just had this spark of life in him. It was like, you know, you just want to be around the guy. And even though he would mess up all the time, you know, you still see the best in him. And it's like all the time, you know, it's like he would get you to that point. And anybody that knows Ryan is close to him, he gets you to that point. It's like, do you want to like cut this dude off? Like you want to cut him off. But at the same time, you can't. You can't cut this guy off. I mean, what is it about me? So many times, like I talked to Ryan and Karina a bunch of times. I'm like, man, I don't know. What am I going to do? I mean, I gave this dude like 25 chances, you know, but I mean, he just had that thing in him, man, you know, and really, I mean, I saw Ryan like a little brother. I mean, he was a little brother to me. He had a lot of qualities that I pride in myself. You know, he was relentless. He was creative. You know, he was this amazing writer. He had this amazing drive. He wanted to succeed. The biggest thing, though, I mean, he was a dreamer. I mean, this guy was an incredible dreamer. And I fancy myself as an incredible dreamer. And we would just spend hours on the phone talking about like what we want to accomplish, like in the entertainment world, what we want to accomplish with our writing, with movies, with films. And, I was in the Midwest with my wife when I came in 2015. So I was kind of doing my thing as a journalist and a documentarian from there. But, he was out here and he would always like, tell me all these stories. Like Ryan's hanging out with Johnny Depp. He's like corresponding with Jim Oles, who wrote Fight Club. He's hanging out with like Nick Stahl from Terminator. Just like all these different things. And I was just like, from the outside looking in, I was like, how does this dude like make all this stuff happen? It's just like he just manifests it. So, yeah, man, he was a creative partner to me. We always talked about a lot of different stuff we wanted to do. And, we both had the prison in our background. We both had the writing in our background. And really, I mean, even right now, me and Karina were talking about this morning, like, I cannot believe that he's gone. It's just like, are you serious? Because even though I knew his struggles, I knew everything. He told me everything. I knew everything he was involved in. He would let me know. When he'd fall off the wagon, he would let me know. When he was sober, when he would let me know. And I just never thought that it would, come to this end. Just knowing him, you're like, how does it come to this end, man? But it just shows you, man. Look, drug addiction, mental illness, PTSD from prison. All this stuff, man, really takes a toll on people. And it doesn't matter because you can hide it. Ryan could hide all that, but, he was suffering inside. And it's like, I was talking to Ryan right here this morning. It's like when you go in prison, they don't give you a guidebook. They don't give you like an instruction manual. And the same thing when you come out. They don't give you anything, man. They give you a bus ticket and like $200. So I'm saying, I mean, whatever. I think, in a way, society and the way life is, I mean, it really failed Ryan because, I mean, he needed more help. He was always asking for help. And I loved how Jim said, because I always felt that too, Ryan never blamed anybody. I always loved that about him. He would always put it right on him. Sometimes he would put it all so much on himself. I'd be like, dude, like, did you say this before? Is this like a plan or something? I would think, because it was like so perfect. He said all the right things. I was like, dude, are you scamming me? Or are you scamming yourself? But I mean, he was just so good with words. And yeah, so I knew about this project. I wrote the Huffington Post article on him. I wrote the Penthouse article on him. When I first got out, like 2015, he was like hitting me up, like basically on social media. And he was like, man, I read your books when I was in prison. I really love them. I really admire you. Write an article about me. This is what I'm doing. And he was like relentless. Like just coming at you like waves. Like sometimes I'd be like, who is this dude? This dude's like a pest. Like, leave me alone. And then he would like mess up and, go back on drugs and I'd be like, oh man, maybe I never heard from this dude again. But then, he starts writing me from prison or he has Karina hitting me up or whatever. So, yeah, man, it's been a journey, man. But I mean, I love this dude like a brother, man. And, I'm really sad he's gone. I don't even know what to say. I don't want to start crying up here or nothing. But, I'm doing this doc. This doc is not only going to be a testament, to his life. I mean, it's really good, man. We really got, a lot of different people have worked on here, some in here like Lucas and we got Avery, Jim, a lot of people have worked on this, man, like over the years as Ryan kind of kept this thing going. But, I'm a closer, I'm a finisher. I'm going to finish it. And not only is this doc going to be like a test, it doesn't have the ending I want. I wanted like the sobriety ending, success. That's the ending I wanted. So, I mean, it sucks. We're not going to get that ending, but still, I think his life needs to be celebrated. And also, it's a cautionary tale. It needs to be held up, man, because there's lots of other Ryan Leones out there, man. And, we couldn't save him or whatever he did. He couldn't save himself. We couldn't save him. But, if we put this out there, just like, people have been saying, like all his YouTube stuff, his Patreon stuff, man, that helps people by him talking about that stuff. So, I'm going to celebrate his life. I'm going to celebrate his legacy with this doc. But it's also going to be a cautionary tale. And it's going to be like, I mean, this is what can happen. If we don't take care of people in our society, on every level. And it doesn't matter if you're from Santa Barbara, it doesn't matter if you're from the inner city of LA. We need to take care of people on a people level, on a human level, as much as we can, and you can never make someone take help, and Ryan was always proud and would act like, nothing was wrong and everything was good. But yeah, man, it's tragic, man. I'm sad that we're here, but at the same time, man, let's remember him for that spark, man, because he had that smile, that spark, that charisma, which is like, who else you guys know? I mean, this dude like talks himself into Johnny Depp's Hollywood Hills mansion. I mean, who does that? Nobody can really do that, but that's how I remember him. I remember him as this kind of mischievous, charismatic dude that always was kind of 3-4 steps ahead of everybody else, despite his struggles. But yeah, man, like I said, I love the guy like a brother, man. So that's all I really got. Thank you.
Yeah, applause to all of the speakers. What wonderful facets of Ryan you're introducing us all to. And now to bring it all together, we're going to hear from Ryan's dad, Frank Leone.
Thank you, Reverend Michelle. Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Seth, and thank you, Ryan, and thank you, Caitlin, and thank you very much. And thank everybody that's here, everybody from around the country, and I think to some large degree beyond the country that are tuned in right now, and those that may see footage of this in the future as well. But I also want to thank Ryan's mother, Diane. Ryan was an extremely kind-hearted, wonderful person that really cared for those in society that were most marginalized. And he would have never gotten to that point if it wasn't for the incredible influence of his mother, Diane, who raised him for 37 years as well as anybody could. So Diane, thank you. You've been a wonderful mother. And finally, I want to thank Karina very much as well for your loyalty, your dedication to Ryan. Ryan really loved you, and for being such an extraordinary mother to Ryan's 2 young sons. And if anybody has any doubts about the future that Nico and Wyland are going to be facing, I can assure you that they are both in extraordinarily good hands with Karina. So thank you, Karina. I met Ryan the moment he was born, 5:02 p.m., in another pristine summer Saturday back in 1985. And my indelible memory of that moment was that he came out and he wasn't crying, he wasn't grimacing, he wasn't complaining. He just looked around the room. And I sat there in amazement. It's the only live birth I've ever seen, and maybe that's what happens in all live births. But I remember I was amazed that he was so curious and that he was so inquisitive, and that trait really lasted him throughout his life. He was able to absorb everything that was going on around him all the time, and it began in the first 10 seconds of his life. As others have recounted, he was an incredible young boy. He was happy. He never cried. He slept through the night almost right away. And he was into films and literature at an incredibly early age. It was mentioned earlier that he watched the movie Ghostbusters and in short time was literally able to recite lengthy dialogue from that movie at the age of 3. And I knew there was something special going on there, I couldn't do it at any age in my life. And he was able to do that at the age of 3. But his real passion was books. I read to him every night, and he wouldn't let me go. We just had to keep on reading and reading. And his uncle Steve recounted a story recently that Steve had told me in the past that I think bears mention. That one day Steve was over and reading to Ryan as a 3-year-old. And Steve decided, well, this is starting to get a little tedious. So Steve skipped ahead a few pages. And Ryan immediately said, Uncle Steve, you missed some things, and then started literally reading the very words that Uncle Steve had skipped. You know, we knew something was there. We didn't know what it was, but we knew that there was some degree of genius. All of us, frankly, are a genius in some manner. And at the age of 3, we really saw Ryan's genius. And then finally, Again, it was mentioned earlier that he had won a prize when he was 9 years old. By 9 years old, he was actually starting to write himself. And he had won a prize at the Barnes & Noble bookstore down here in downtown Santa Barbara in writing a short story. It was the title of that story that I think gave us an idea of genres to follow. The title of that book was Why I Suck Blood. First prize. And I remember the first sentence is, in the dark evening skies, there was howling moon dogs. Howling moon dogs. How a 9-year-old could come up with those two words hooked together is beyond me. But again, there was this creative genius that was there at the earliest of ages. Favorite Ryan story of mine, and my gosh, I could have come up with 100 today, but this is one that I wanted to share. Back in the year 2003, Ryan was 18 years old, and we enrolled him in a gap school in Worcester, Massachusetts. Gap school meaning a year between high school and college, where you can do a job of your choice, you could learn life skills, and you could live with others in a dormitory-like environment. We flew east, we went to Boston, I brought him to Worcester. We went and registered early in the morning, and I left, heading back to the Boston airport to fly back to Santa Barbara. And about 6 or 7 minutes later, perhaps 8 minutes at the most, I was driving past a little park, a few doors down from the house where the registration for this program took place. And I looked and I saw 4 or 5 young people. They were all students, new incoming students at this school, sitting down in or next to a park bench, laughing their heads off. And standing right in front of them, standing and waving his arms and telling them stories, was Ryan. This was about 7 minutes after they all met. I don't think there's a story that describes Ryan any better than that. A showman that loved to entertain and loved to make people laugh. Ryan as an adult, and this is another transition to a very brief thing, but I think very, very meaningful as well. He was in one of his rehabs. One time Ryan and I counted them, and there was more than 20 rehabs that Ryan had gone to in his life. This one was down in Thousand Oaks, a place called La Ventana. And I went down to speak to the assembled group of residents there as well as the staff. And I realized right from the start that the residents were probably suffering from a significant degree of lack of self-esteem. So I wanted to create a flavor of positivity in the room. So I went around the room and asked everybody to tell everybody else that if I had spoken to their closest friends, what those friends would have told me was their primary best trait. One word from everybody. And it was really remarkable because these were people that were going through very challenging times. Yet by saying that one word, it was reinforcing in their mind that they were a good person after all. It got to Ryan, and I was anxiously awaiting to hear what word Ryan would come up with. And I'll give you 5 seconds. Try to think of what word you think Ryan would come up with. And if you guess correctly, I'll give you a free program from today's service. The word that Ryan came up with was loyal. Loyal. L-O-Y-A-L. And indeed, he was the embodiment of a loyal person. He was loyal to his parents. He was perpetually, no matter what was happening, respectful of Diane and myself to an extraordinary degree. He was loyal to his own family, to Karina, and he absolutely adored and loved his 2 little boys. He was loyal to his friends. He has so many friends, and he treasured them and was always loyal to them. To his principles and ideals. He thought matters through, he came up with opinions, and he stuck with those opinions. He was loyal to his ideals. And he was loyal to society's dispossessed, whether they are inmates whose voices are seldom heard, or whether they are addicts that are so often misunderstood. Ryan was loyal to their cause. It's not how many years you live, but what you do with those years. And Ryan did an awful lot in a remarkably short period of time. He was always a man in a hurry. He was on a fast track. He was always pacing around. There was not enough minutes in an hour for Ryan. He was an insomniac. for years upon years. He was just so wired up wanting to do things. But I think most importantly, as an adult, he instinctively knew that he could best reach his target audiences, not through preaching, not through cogent argument, but by entertaining them and introducing humor into what he did. And indeed, he did achieve an extraordinary, and still has an extraordinary national and indeed international following. In many respects, I think they can best be summed up as a new age spokesperson for the highly marginalized, both the inmate populations and the world of addiction were his primary aims because he had been there. There's something that it's a very easy place to go when you lose a cherished loved one, and that's to play the what if game. What if this? What if that? What if I had done this? What if I had done that? But it doesn't work. You have to switch what if to what did. And we really want to concentrate, cherish, and celebrate what Ryan did. And it brings me to perhaps the most compelling story of Ryan's life. And it occurred in 1989, March 1989, in Tampa, Florida. We were living in Massachusetts at the time, went down to Tampa and went to Busch Gardens, which is a theme park in Florida. And we went to this exhibit, which was really isolated from the rest of the theme park. You had to go down a narrow path to get there. Small little exhibit. And Ryan was not a bolter. He was only 3 years old, and he never walked away from us, no less ran away. And all of a sudden, Ryan wasn't there anymore. And we looked in this little exhibit, and he was nowhere to be found. We did not know what to do. So spontaneously, we had to make a decision. And I told Diane, you wait at the entrance, and I'm going to run and try to find him. But I had 3 different paths I could have taken. There was a path to the left, path to the straight ahead, and a path to the right. Each of those surrounded by trees for a good 50 or 60 yards before an opening on the other end. I chose the path to the left, rather arbitrarily, ran down there shouting his name, got to the other side, and there was this large expanse, this large opening on the other side with literally hundreds of people walking around in the area. There was food stands there was other exhibits and the like. And out of the corner of my eye on the far left, pretty far away from us, I saw some woman carrying Ryan, actually trotting, and Ryan was holding a big gulp drink at the time. And I ran through the crowd and got up to her, and I immediately knew when I spoke with her that it was an abduction. She was not relieved to see me. She was petrified to see me. And I had to make a decision at that point. Am I going to do something about this right now, or am I going to get Ryan back to his mother? And the decision that I made was I am going to get Ryan back to his mother because she must be petrified standing there waiting for him. And I also knew that I had no definitive proof that it was an abduction. About a year later, I read in a newspaper, and there was photos there, that a abduction ring was in Northern California in Berkeley. And there was a picture of this woman there. So it was, in fact, an abduction. But the point that I'm getting to is this. This is a different slant on what if. What if I had taken the middle path instead of the left path? But I didn't. What if I had taken the path on the right instead of the path on the left? But I didn't. What if I had gotten to that opening 30 seconds earlier? But I didn't. What if I had gotten to that opening 30 seconds later? But I didn't. What if she hadn't stopped to get him a drink, which I subsequently learned is a common tactic for people that conduct abductions? But she did. It was by a sequence of miracles that we got Ryan back that day, and a sequence of miracles that Diane and I got 37 years of Ryan and not 3. And by the series of those miracles that the world got Ryan as we know him. So when we talk about what if, I'm going to talk about what ifs that played to our favor. And that's the miracle of life that I'll always remember. In the 2 weeks since Ryan passed, that horrible Saturday 2 weeks ago, Diane and I have heard from literally well over 100 different people via phone calls or text messages or emails. And there's been a constant refrain in all of them. Is there anything I can do? And my answer is, yes, there is. I say that to all of you in this room, sitting outside, and all of you that are tuned in through the live stream that is occurring simultaneously with this presentation. You can do something. And I believe strongly that no life is ever lived in vain, that everything that any of us do, and we're all God's children, we all have our good traits and good sides to us, nothing's ever in vain. And that everybody that we touch in some way takes a little bit of us forward to their lives and indeed passes that on to others as they move forward. And I ask everybody in this room that loved Ryan, everybody that is tuned in that loved Ryan, to pick something about Ryan. Pick it. It can be his kind heart. It can be his sense of humor. It can be his dedication to his true beliefs. It can be his love of his children and his partner. It can be any of those things. But that's the one thing that I would ask everybody is to please cherish Ryan in some way by taking something from him and incorporating it into your life to make your life more fruitful as well. In closing, 15 days ago, I was certain that the deceased, in fact, were not capable of looking down at us. 15 days later, I do not believe that anymore. I really believe that deep crises breeds new heights of spirituality. And indeed, I really feel in my heart of hearts that Ryan is with us today, and being the extraordinarily humble person that he was, is overwhelmed by the love and support that is present in this room. God bless all of you here today on live stream or ultimately reviewing a recording of this, and may God bless Ryan.
Well, there's only one person who could follow that, and that's Ryan. I'm going to read from you an excerpt from Ryan's upcoming book, Anti-Heroes. Bethany was a transgender, but always maintained some level of masculinity. She had a Burt Reynolds mustache. She wore plaid pajamas and oversized hooded sweatshirt. Her green eyelashes were stiff with the same shade as her stringy hair. She looked like a man trying to look like a woman, and what resulted was a truly unique music video creation. Why, thank you, love, Amber said. Where's Moo and Emerald? You know them high-maintenance hoes, Bethany said. They're getting some goodies at the vending machine. Oh, but of course they are. She closed the doors and they walked towards Colin. Geez, this man is amazingly hideous, Bethany said. You don't even know the half of it. He's a real pig. Bethany gasped. A cop? No, just a foul pig of a human. Why in God's name is he wearing a bib and eating ribs? That's like so passé. Amber shook her head. Real creep. Colin's head was sagging. He snored obnoxiously. Well, I'm sure that's what you say about me behind my back. Of course not. You're a total babe, Beth. Bethany walked up and they started kissing. There was a succession of knocks. They broke free. And there they are, Bethany said. Amber walked up to the door and opened it. Emerald and Moo walked in. They were both transgenders. Moo had dyed purple hair, and that went past her waist. Emerald had short brown hair, boyish qualities that were offset with eccentric multicolored makeup. They were both chewing on payday candy bars. They acknowledged Amber and Bethany as they walked through and stopped at Colin. He was out cold. My, Moo said, look at this creepy wad, waltzed right out of a Sears catalog. Bethany and Amber nodded. Wallet? Asked Moo. We're now going to hear another of Ryan's favorite songs, Self-Care by Mac Miller.
I switched to town, so what do I know? Spending nights hitchhiking, where will I go? I could fly home with my eyes closed, but if you're kinda hard to see, there's no surprise though. And you can find me, I ain't hiding. I remove my feet when I be gliding. I just slide and then I roll up. Yeah, well, climbing over that wall. I remember, yes, I remember it all. Swear the hype be too tall, so like September I fall down below. Now I know that the medicine be on call, It's feeling like you hot enough to melt, Can't trust no one, can't even trust yourself, I love you, I don't love nobody else, Tell them they can take that bullshit elsewhere. Self-care, I'm treating me right. Hell yeah, gonna be alright. Gonna be alright. I switched to town zone, but what do I know? Spending nights hitchhiking, where will I go? I could fly home with my eyes closed, but if you're kinda hard to see, there's no surprise though. And you can find me, I ain't hiding. I remove my feet when I be gliding. I just slide and then I roll up. Yeah, I've been reading them signs. I've been losing my mind. Yeah, get the fuck out the way. Must be this how to play. It must be nice up above the lights and with a lovely life that I made. Yeah, I know that feeling like it's in my family tree. Yeah, that Mercedes drove me crazy. I was speeding. Somebody save me from myself. Yeah, tell them they can take that bullshit elsewhere. Self-care, we gonna be good. Hell yeah, they letting me I switched to town zone, but what do I know? Spending nights hitchhiking, where will I go? I could fly home with my eyes closed, but if you're kinda hard to see, there's no surprise though. And you can find me, I ain't hiding. I remove my feet when I be gliding. I just slide and then I roll up. I didn't know. Yeah. Well, didn't know what I was missing. Now I see a little different. I was taking too much. Got stuck in oblivion, Oblivion. I got all the time in the world, so for now I'm just chilling. Plus I know it's a beautiful feeling. In oblivion, Oblivion. Yeah, okay, I ride around my city when I come home. The sunset quickly, then get up slow. I just connect and upload. Watch it spin around. We just spin it round. Let's go and travel through the unknown. We play it cool, we know we fucked up. You keep on saying you in love, so tell me, are you really down? No, you really down. Yeah. Let's go back to my crib and play some 45. It's safe in here, I know there's still a war outside. We spend our nights all liquored up on morning sun. Can you feel it now? Oblivion, Oblivion, I got all the time in the world, so for now I'm just chilling. Cause I know it's a beautiful feeling. In oblivion, Oblivion,
Well, now I'd like to offer you some self-care on honoring your grief. The mystic poet Rumi says that the deeper the grief, the more radiant the love. When we talk about grief, we're talking about feelings of a raw sadness that come from a deep loss. And I'd like to offer you some ways to be with these feelings and also to allow others to support you as you're with these feelings and as you're going through your own process. First is to don't dwell on labels. There's somehow some unwritten guidelines around how long you can grieve, who you can grieve, and in what places you can show your grief. Well, I want to invite you to listen to your body wisdom. If you feel a heaviness around your chest, if you notice your voice cracks when you speak, if you start crying or even sobbing in public, you're grieving, even if you don't think you should or someone else doesn't think you should be. And so this is the time to be gentle with yourself. Ultimately, one of the things you're grieving is a loss of yourself, where you were in this relationship. You may miss who you were, and you may feel scared of not knowing who you'll be next. All feelings that come up are normal. All feelings are, if you welcome them and be with them, going to flow through. I want to let you know that scared is a very normal part of a feeling to come up with grief. And I want you to let you know too that it's also okay to feel happy sometimes. In fact, that might be a way to honor Ryan, is to feel happy, even when you're still in your heart grieving for him. And I want to let you know that guilt is also a normal part of grief. And as Frank said, when those feelings come up, think of the good that did happen rather than worrying about shoulds. And reach out to others. We've got a room full of people, we've got an internet full of people who are all in this community right now of loving and missing Ryan. Feel free to reach out to each other and be as specific as you can about what kind of help you need. Even if it seems ridiculous, even if it seems selfish. But if you don't know what kind of help to ask for, find that safe person you can be with and say, will you just sit with me while I fall apart? I don't know what kind of help to ask for, but will you help me ask for help? But be careful who you reach out to, because this experience of grieving is yours. You're doing it in your unique way. And this is one of the few times when it's actually okay to have everything be all about you. And that means it is not about making others feel comfortable or you having to listen to other people's stories and play some kind of psychologist to them. Be aware if someone is there for you or is there to bring attention to themselves and some grief of their own that they haven't healed yet. It's okay to say no to people who don't feel good to be around. It's okay to relentlessly protect yourself and take the time you need to feel and to heal. And that brings us to our last tip for honoring your grief. Go slow. Allow your feelings to move at your pace. Take as much time as you need to land on what you want to do, who you are, and who you are becoming. Grief does not have an expiration date. Give yourself as much time as you need to feel your feelings all the way through, to honestly and vulnerably invite others to support you, and allow yourself to heal and grow in the space that Ryan has left behind. In this new way of being with yourself, in being with others, in being with Ryan, the lines between Ryan and you and God may blur sometimes, and in oneness, that's as it should be. This phenomenon of the blurring lines is beautifully illustrated in the poem, I Am There, by Unity's Poet Laureate, James Dillett Freeman. Do you need me? I am there. You cannot see me, yet I am the light you see by. You cannot hear me, though I speak through your voice. You cannot feel me, yet I am the power at work in your hands. I am at work, though you do not understand my ways. I am at work, though you do not recognize my works. I am not strange visions. I am not mysteries. Only in absolute stillness, beyond self, can you know me as I am, and then, but as a feeling and a faith, yet I am there. Yet I hear, yet I answer. When you need me, I am there. Even if you deny me, I am there. Even when you feel most alone, I am there. Even in your fears, I am there. Even in your pain, I am there. I am there when you pray and when you do not pray. I am in you, and you are in me. Only in your mind can you feel separate from me, because only in your mind are the mists of yours and mine. Yet only with your mind can you know me and experience me. Empty your heart of empty fears. When you get yourself out of the way, I am there. You can of yourself do nothing, but I can do all, and I am in all. Though you may not see the good, good is there because I am there. I am there because I have to be, because I am. Only in me does the world have meaning. Only out of me does the world take form. Only because of me does the world go forward. I am the law on which the movement of the stars and the growth of the living cells are founded. I am the love that is the laws fulfilling. I am sure. I am assurance. I am peace. I am oneness. I am the law that you can live by. I am the love that you can cling to. I am your assurance. I am your peace. I am one with you. I am. Though you fail to find me, I do not fail to find you. Though your faith in me is unsure, my faith in you never wavers, because I know you, because I love you. Beloved, I am there. Our closing song is It Is Well With My Soul, and it's going to be played by Brian Tari. That was beautiful. Thank you. So knowing all is well with Ryan's soul, and all is and will continue to be well with our own soul, we prepare to be a new way in connection with Ryan Leone. Ryan was feeling so much aliveness and so much love. This will continue. And I encourage you to believe in any signs, any messages you may receive from him. As you move into this new way with Ryan, we'll say the prayer for protection for Ryan on his journey, for each of us on our journey. I'd now like to invite all of you in the sanctuary to stand, please. And for those of you who are watching us online, please also stand. The words for the prayer for protection will be coming up on the screen. I'll read the first line, and then I'll ask you to say it all together with me. The light of God surrounds us. Together, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. Together, the love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. Together, the power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Together, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well now. Together, wherever we are, God is, and all is well now. We're continuing the celebration of Ryan out to the patio now. There's going to be a reception catered by Tino's Italian Deli. I invite you to begin your next connecting with Ryan, not as a goodbye, but with a thank you. And if any memories of gratitude for Ryan come up, please share them with Frank, Diane, or Karina, because they would love to hear them. I want to thank everyone here for coming in person to celebrate the life, the love, and the impact of Ryan Leone. And I want to thank everyone who has joined us virtually. I want to thank Brian Tari for his beautiful piano playing at the beginning and during the service. And now, as everyone leaves, to continue their love of Ryan. Thank you.